drop that off on the way out. We're there at all times. The toilets are opposite through there near the stairwell where you came through. And COVID, of course, let's keep in mind the guidelines around that. Thank you very much. And let's open with a karakia. I will open us this morning. Don't mind me, I'll stand, but you don't have to. E tōnei ki rungi a tātou katoa, te wairua ngā mātua tūpuna, nā rātou I hakatakoto te ara hei hikoi mā tātou ngā uri, I hakatoki o tātou ngākau ki ngā tikanga, hei ara takinga I a tātou, I te hāpai wā tātou mahi katoa, I roto I te pono, te tika, te maramatanga, I te aroha anō, haramai te toki, haumie, hui e, pai ki e. Okay. Okay, now we're going into apologies. So far we have apologies from Jeff, from Councillor Peter Lucas Jones and Steve Watini. Is it everybody? Are there any others? I don't believe so. I don't believe so. Okay. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Amy, thank you. Marty, second. All in favour say aye. Aye. Carried. Okay, thank you. Next, declarations of conflicts of interest. Any declarations? Or you may do so as your item comes up. Thank you. Okay, moving forward. Minute, council minutes and action sheet. 5.1. Do I have a mover and a seconder? I will move. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's there. Jack can second. Any discussion on the minutes? If there are none, all in favour say aye. Aye. Carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to 5.2, receipt of action sheet. Marty's going to move. Do we have a seconder? John, thank you. Any discussion on the action sheet?
I do know, Chair, that our GM Environmental Services was just going to give us a verbal update on the first action in the action sheet.
Oh, yep.
Okay. Go ahead, Rupert.
Kia ora, could you just remind me what the action is?
It was the Poplar and Willow Nursery investment options, and we were going to come back to council by June, but CEO just asked if there was an update on that.
Kia ora, Council. So we have issued a request for quote for that work, and we're anticipating awarding that. It's pretty low value, so we're not anticipating it will be overly complicated in terms of fulfillment, and we're expecting to have that work completed within the next month or so.
Thank you, Rupert. Any other things to raise from the action sheet?
Just a comment on the poplars. It did occur to me, we're not very good at growing poplars. They're quite expensive, and they're talking about putting a railway through the middle of it. It doesn't help, but it's actually a job that I wondered whether we could get the odd farmer who was semi-retired or retired to do it, because they have done it in the past. They've done it pretty well. I wonder if we could have a wee look at that avenue.
Chair.
Or Jono or
very briefly, we're effectively going to be testing the market around whether or not there's likely to be uptake from the private sector to provide support for providing poplar and willows. So we should be able to answer that question at a high level as part of this work.
Maybe have a lesson or two of Kaipara and Moana, how they've gone about and got the trees growing in these areas done quite well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Okay, on that, if there's no comments, all in favour say aye. Carried. Moving on to Ngāti Puata financial reports. 6.1, Jack is moving and Rick is seconding. Any discussion?
Yep.
Rick, go ahead.
So if we go to capital expenditure, and that's on page 28. So Jack was just telling me that there's something in the Advocate today about the Minister giving us an extra $1 million for Joint Emergency Services Coordination Centre. So so how does that affect this capital expenditure? We just found out about that today. Does it affect it at all?
Jono,
Councillor,
through the chair. Jono, could you answer Councillor Rick?
Councillor, it doesn't necessarily affect this. So we've started rating for our contribution to the multi-agency coordination centre. That money goes into a reserve, so it's not getting spent at the moment because we were short $1 million. We've now got a verbal confirmation from Fins that we can use their site and do a partnership up on their site. As you're aware, we were $1 million short, hence we had that $1 million in our consultation document to go out and consult with the community about filling that gap. Thankfully, the Minister has come forward and said actually the Crown's willing to fill that $1 million funding gap. So in essence, we don't need to do that through our consultation document now. So that'll be a decision for you guys in May that you don't need to do that. There's not a funding gap any longer.
Perfect.
So we should have now all of the pieces of the puzzle that we need to proceed.
So my understanding is that in the 11.05, that million? That was covered.
That $1 million is built into the 11.05.
So that means we're going to have an extra $1 million.
So just to be clear though, that $1 million isn't there as a significant rate contribution for year one. That because we're loan funding it, that there is essentially put onto the end of the loan term. So it's a very small fraction.
So I understand that, but my question, I guess to inform the public now, it looks like we go ahead with the Emergency Coordination Centre. There shouldn't be any reason why that shouldn't carry on. Is that correct?
We're ready to proceed.
Yeah, we're ready. We'll discuss that as a council.
So that's the first one. Second one is we've gone to consultation on the long-term plan. Are we going to notify the public about this? Because it does affect the that 11.05, doesn't it?
Yes, we can.
So how do we do that?
We can put communications out there. Whether
so now we're not at the moment. We're not 11.05 or whatever $1 million off that is.
Well, it's not, like I said, it's not $1 million off it per se, because the $1 million is you pay it off over a longer period of time.
So that's
$1 million within year one. But yes, we need to update the community. The fact that we don't need that any longer.
Tomorrow is the first drop-in session,
and we'll be referencing that in our I'll be doing the PowerPoint presentation at the start.
Good.
That is on
because I really
think to highlight that.
I really think there's two things there. The first is that we need to I was actually thinking about it on the way in, because there was a damning report on Civil Defence's response to Cyclone Gabrielle, and we can say lots of reasons why that report was damning, but effectively it wasn't because the money was not available for the infrastructure in the first place. Now the government's fronted up with this $1 million, so we're in a much better position. And I think it's important that the community knows that we have pushed for this for a long time, and it will make a huge difference to our response to emergency services. So I think it's really important that we get that message out there, and we also get the message out, first of all, that's been built, and secondly, that it is going to affect the long-term plan. So thank you. Perfect timing.
Just to be clear, Councillor, I assume you're talking about the report for the Hawke's Bay's response to.
Well, yes, it was damning of Civil Defence in general.
No, it said Hawke's Bay.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. It reflects on Civil Defence. So
just to provide you comfort as well, we'll be reviewing the report that was just released in the last 24 hours or 48 hours.
I only heard it on the news briefly, so
we'll be reviewing it as well and reflecting on what are the lessons learned that we can apply in Northland as well in our response. We get as hard as what they did.
The other question is just around the delays in commencement of design of Waipapa. So can I just have, is that a refresh on, is that a council decision to hold that back, or is that a management decision to hold that back? I've forgotten.
Madam Chair, if you can just ask Bruce, I can't quite recall.
My recollection is it went to the investment property subcommittee, and staff advised that there would be a 1-year pause whilst local government reforms and changes were in action, and then we'd revisit it a year from that date of that meeting. I can't recall the date of that meeting. It may have been 6 months ago.
Yeah, it was. I think November meeting. I think. Wish. Okay, so we are going to review it. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I just,
Right, sorry, we've got Marty and I also see Joe's hand, but Bruce's hand is up. Shall we hear from Bruce?
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to provide an update on our managed fund gains. There's the
oh,
report.
sorry, just before going.
Oh,
off,
sorry, I
it's
thought you
still-
were going to
yeah.
respond to this, but is it relevant to what we're just, okay, we'll come back to you, Bruce.
We're just regarding that $1 million windfall. We heard on last week that infrastructure costs have gone up 20% just without any real rhyme or reason. So I would suggest that we keep that rate on, because the odds are on that it's gone up 1 million. There's nothing to stop it going up another million, and that would be refunded. The building should go
I
ahead.
don't know, like, yeah, I think that, you know, the government has responded to our bid.
Yep.
You know, it was kind of like, I was feeling like it was our last bid. It was our last chance bid. We'd scraped up all our pennies and we didn't quite have enough to get us across the line. And yeah, so, but perhaps Marty, could I propose that we do, you know, we have that discussion when we have a chance to sit down together as a council, look at it and then come back
Yes,
with our
Yeah,
responses too.
I'm just conscious of funding cost overruns.
We acknowledge that too, you're right, infrastructure's terrible. Any other on that?
oh, not on that matter, no. But on the financial report,
Sorry, yeah, I still have Joe and then you, Jack. Did you want? Okay, we'll hold off you, Bruce. Joe, are you there, Joe?
Yeah, I am, Tui. I just shut the screen down because I'm looking at the agenda.
George.
Kia ora.
Your hand is up. Would you like to
No,
comment?
no, it's George Riley's hands up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that you, George?
It's in the fine print.
I don't know.
One of my better versions, yes. All black screen. Kia ora.
Morena, George. Hey,
Morena. Just one small question, if I'm able to, thanks, Madam Chair, if it's my turn. And
Yes.
that's the expenditure on the Kalerpa, just a touch under 400K in the financial report. And I was wondering if there's going to be a continued hold of the budget that was predicted, or are we going to recast the budget given the MPI subsidies that maybe have arrived post-budget agreement?
Who would like to answer that, Jono?
Kia ora, Chair. Kia ora, George. Yeah, as you saw, public announcement, NRC has received just on $3 million to be spent within the rest of this financial year for the eradication of Kalerpa. Yes, we'll have to have a look and see what impact that has on our budget. There was no, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Don, there was no co-funding requirement within that that allocation. Don, I'm not sure whether we fully spent our budget when it comes to Kalerpa and our current response activities.
Yes, we are. We'll be fully spent out.
Already, or by the end of the financial year?
By the end of the financial year.
So George, NRC will have fully spent our budget, and yes, once the contract's signed and the funds have come into our accounts, you'll see that recognised hopefully in next month's financial report.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you, George. Jack?
just a minor one, on page 25, the very first item on revenue, it says here higher than budgeted rates due to increase in land values. We always take pains to explain to ratepayers that when your valuation goes up, your rates don't automatically go up. Can somebody please explain how just a timing issue, or why that is? I know it's only 50K, but 51K. How can that be? How can we collect more rates just to
Simon.
only to land value?
Yep. So when we strike our rate, there is $20 million worth of land value. Then during the year, subdivisions, which increase the land value. You know, you might have a $500,000 section.
Okay, so it's individual land
that's
value.
like your two lots of 400, you know, and so we're charging the same rate but on a bigger
Yeah, I'm there. I'm completely okay. Thank you. So really, the next time, we're nice to pick a slightly different wording. I don't want to alarm the public that every time the land values go up, everyone rates goes up. That's not true.
Yeah, it's an increase in rateable units, isn't it?
Yeah, increase in rateable units. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jack. Amy.
Thank you, Sorry. Just a question through you, please, just around environmental services and that 20%, we call it favourable variance. But just wondering, you know, where we are at in the financial year, how's that looking in terms of delivery, at year end?
Is that okay for Ruben? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, good day. Significant portion of the salary variance. So we've purposely held off on some roles within the land team, for example, whilst we review the service delivery model for that team. In addition to that, there's also a significant portion of identifies that our hill country erosion subsidy, for example, is underspent, but it's actually a phasing issue there. So with the grants, generally those are all currently allocated. We are the one area where we are falling behind and we're focusing on is in our within our science team. There are some projects there that, for various reasons, there may be some underspend there, but generally we're on track, and there's just some phasing challenges there. So I guess the take home is once you take away the salaries and the grant funding, it actually balances out to be nowhere near 20%.
Thank you.
Okay, go on. John.
Just acknowledge that long-term fund gain is increasing.
I see rents are down. Through the chair. Is there any reason for rental income to be down? Is that due to vacancies, or is it due to a non-payment, or getting grants for that? Because it's the first time I've seen that out of the COVID. Got an answer to that?
You able to respond to that first?
Yeah.
I'll have to check with Phil and get back to you on that one, Jack.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
I can respond to that. So you can rent a house in Wongarei quite easily. The house is rentable, but in Kaipara there's virtually none. What's wrong?
There's lots wrong.
You just don't have enough houses in Kaipara. But it's strange, a country area like that doesn't have enough houses. If you want to rent a house, it's really difficult.
Well, if there's no further discussion, yeah, that's right. Sorry, Bruce.
Thanks, Chair.
Yeah.
Just want to provide an update on the managed funds because the report you've received only has gains for January. It's a timing matter, so we've received the gains now for February. So the total gains that we've received for February was $737,000. So that changes in that table under managed funds, it changes the favourable variance of 321,000 to a figure of 1.058 million ahead of budget, 2/3 of the way through the year. So that's a pleasing result. And when we look at the table that's labelled summary operating results, after we adjust for the gains and the associated recapitalisation reinvestment of those gains, the impact on the net cost surplus after transfers from and to reserves is that the favourable variance increases from 731,000 to 736,000. So that's an increase in the favourable variance of $5,000.
Chair, I wonder, Bruce, could you just speak to the MMH dividend as well? Simon?
So, Marsden Marathon Holdings dividend, they declare dividend twice a year, once in September, once in March. And for every cent they declare, we get $220,000. So in September, they declared 7.5 cents. And in March, we haven't got it, we'll get it on Thursday, they've declared 6 cents. So that's 13.5 cents for the year, or about $3 million. The budget is 16 million.
No.
Sorry, 16 cents. 16 cents. Right, so
I wish it was 16.
Yeah, I wish it was. So 16 cents budget. We're only going to get 13.5 cents. So 2.5 cents short. which as I says, 220 a cent is $550,000 under budget. In that first page, the revenue block, you'll see dividends with an orange coloured traffic light, and it says 175k under budget. Next month, that will be 550, so that will move $375,000 and will be a 550,000 unfavourable variance in there. So it's not good news. What makes it better is that we can absorb it, right? So we've got 731. We're going to basically take 350 off that, so we can absorb it. Not good news, but we can absorb it. Yeah. Any other questions on that? But yeah,
Was that expected?
it comes back to that 7.5 in September, you know, because that's based on their result for the previous year where log
Yes.
volume was down, cargo was down, interest costs were up too. They don't sort of mention that, but it was. They doubled their interest costs because of all the money on they had all their debt. So it's
The next
down by
6
$1 million.
months. What's the next 6 months looking like?
Well, that's the 6 cents that came in March. That's what we normally get. We get 6 cents normally in March. And going forward, I don't know. I know in June, July, August, you know, when they finalise the annual report.
Thanks, Simon.
Thanks, Simon.
Just on that
Go.
note, I do wonder if the Brynderwan's been closed will affect the amount of logs coming into port, because south of Brynderwan's, we're probably trucking them around.
Hilda. Okay. All right. So if there's no further discussion, we had Jack move and Rick second. The report, all in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Against, carry. Thank you. Moving on to 6.2, approval to borrow 9 approval to, okay. Rick is moving and Marty is seconding. Any discussion?
Yep. So I know we have discussed this previously at workshops, and also we have discussed it at when I was chair of investment and property. So I'm very happy to move it, and I'm very keen to see these things progress. And I'd like it. I'm hoping it'll go through today very quickly so we can get on with the jobs. Thank you. Cool.
Thank you, Rick. Any others like to do?
Just a comment on agreement.
Well, that's your.
Can you get it going?
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the staff. I think this is a good blend. So I think this is the way to do it. So thank you.
All right. Well, if there's no further discussion, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, that's carried. That's through. Go. Next, 7.1, policy approvals and regulatory services oversight. We have how many recommendations? 5 recommendations. Do we want to take them all together?
No.
Yeah, I think we'll go through them one by one, eh? That the report be received. Do I have a mover?
Second.
Amy and Marty. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against?
I'm against.
Rick's against.
I'd like to speak to it, please.
It's carried. Well, how does this, okay, so you moved the motion, but you're against
I
it.
didn't move it.
Oh, Amy, okay, sorry, that was the previous one. All right, so we've moved through recommendation 1. And now we're going to move on to recommendation 2, that council approves the following text to be added to the delegations manual as read. Can I ask a technical question?
Mhm.
Because this was a paper that was put forward, driven by the chair, and the chair's not here, does he leave a proxy vote?
No.
No, so anyone who's absent is not voting.
Correct.
Okay. That the council approves the following text to be added to the delegations manual. Do I have a mover? I'll move it. Do we have a seconder?
I have a second.
John's going to second it. Any discussion?
Yeah, no.
Rick?
So I didn't approve the, excuse me, the recommendation 1 because effectively I have spoken.
Wait, sorry, we're on recommendation 2,
Yeah.
Rick.
I did ask to speak to recommendation 1. It's okay, I can cover it in 2. So I initially, in the extraordinary meeting, I spoke out against combining these 2 committees. So I cannot agree to any of these changes to the delegations manual because, and if anybody wishes to, I won't repeat them. The reasons I spoke out against it, they can refer to the live streaming or the recorded report on, I think it was 14th of February, on combining audit and risk and finance committee. So I do not approve of these recommendations, and I have obviously voted against 1. I'll vote against this one. I do not, in particular, like B, the chief executive and the chair have authority to approve policies that apply to both staff and elected members. You know, I believe this is, again, governance interfering far too much in management, and that is another reason that I oppose 2. So I will speak to the others, but that's why, particularly why I oppose 2.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you for saying that you will not repeat yourself every time one of these items comes up, because we hear you loud and clear.
Thank you.
And I would prefer to hear debate on the actual topics that are coming forward, recommended by staff too. Let's remember that a team has put our papers together, and let's hear it on each merit. Now, I understand that we have 2 councillors that cannot be here today that support this, that cannot vote. So if it's not socialised enough with the majority in the room, then I might ask that we defer it, because, you know, and this would be afforded to others if you had to put up an agenda item that was important to you, and I was chairing it and you weren't able to be here, or the people that, you know, supported it. So it's unfortunate today that, you know, there's not others to speak to it. So if I'm getting a feeling today that we're not going to get through this policy, we're not going to sit here and back and forth, I'm going to defer it if that's possible, Chris.
It's a procedural motion, so you can move that this item no longer be discussed at this meeting and be deferred to the April meeting.
Yeah.
Does that need to move in a second, Chris? Does that help? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think I will, because I get the feeling that maybe our council needs to talk this over a little bit more together, even if we had a little bit more council only time. I don't know what, you know, but let's see if we can facilitate that and revisit this kaupapa another day. I'm going to move that motion. John's happy to second it. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I would support your motion, Tui, if if we had the CE present at any further meeting we have before the April, or before whatever council meeting we put this up at, because I feel that I haven't personally had enough opportunity to discuss all the manifestations with the CE. So it's provided that we can have an offline conversation with the chief executive about that, and I don't mind admitting the minutiae about what this might mean, because there are some aspects where this looks like common sense. There are others I have no visibility of or knowledge of the application. So otherwise I'd vote against this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking, was the feeling in the room. Let's not try and push things. So if we all agree, and those online as well, I hope you're following, that we will, I'm moving, John seconding, that we defer this. Rick, was that?
No, it's all right, I'll wait till we vote.
So that's that's items 2 to 5, is it?
Yeah, I'm going to say all the detail, you know, perhaps, yeah, and that we sit with our CEO before we bring it back to a council meeting as well. Now, Rick, are you going to repeat what you said, that you don't agree either way?
So I believe we should vote on it today. I'm voting on these 5 recommendations. We've discussed, I don't need any more further information. The message is very clear in there, what it is saying. It is going for governance override over some of management decisions. So I would vote against it, and I will vote against it with deferring it as well.
We hear you, and that is your opinion of the interpretation, the way you are interpreting the
Yep.
policy. The recommendation is based on the fact that the staff are recommending efficiencies as well. And this paper has been developed by the staff, but I am acknowledging as the acting chair that it needs to be socialised a little bit more. And I prefer for the councillors to have a better understanding of what the delegations mean, including having our CEO talk that through with people. We don't need disruptors in the conversation. We understand if people are against the conversation, but please do allow those of us who need to have it before we go to vote, Marty.
In agreeing that that it can be delayed because it hasn't been sufficiently socialised. It wasn't sufficiently socialised from the start, and that's why I voted against having combining on the same lines, combining the ordinary risk with investment in property, because it's not had a chance to be fully socialised by council. That's why I would be voting against when it comes again to some of these delegations, because they are not sufficiently socialised, and it seems to be a little bit of executive decision rather than decision by the whole council. And I'm happy to defer the matter and let it lie on the table.
Yeah, so what we're saying is we are going to spend a little bit more time socialising that. So you're happy with that, Marty?
I'm making that comment, and then
This, by the way, this comes out of corporate services, So if you have a problem with a committee, let's try to still have our open minds and open hearts about the way that work can happen within the council. And saying that, I'm going to put forward the motion. All in favour say aye. Shall we have a show of hands?
yes, to defer.
To defer. Do you want to give them the wording? Procedural motion.
That the item being discussed should be adjourned to the April council meeting and not be further discussed at this meeting.
Okay. All in favour say, I'll put your hand up.
No, hang on, I don't think that's enough.
What's
Just-
not enough?
All it's saying is it be deferred. It doesn't say that we're going to have any more.
I'll,
You just be bunged up again.
no,
without
I'll
any-
ensure a secretarial note to reflect that request.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Good for
That'll be workshop.
confirming that. Yes, workshop with our CE. Okay. How many is that? Yes. With Joe had his hand up as well. Against, Rick is recorded as against. The motion's carried. All right. Thank you for that. So 7.2, moving forward to the catchment banning initiatives. We have 6 recommendations. Are we okay to take those together?
Yep.
Yes.
I'm happy.
Do we have a mover and a seconder? Rick's moving, Amy's seconding. All right. Any discussion?
I'd like to mention that it was mentioned by the chair that there was towards the Bay of Islands catchment, which includes Taumāriri. So I'd like to include it in the wording somewhere that this is as an initial move towards the Bay of Islands catchment rather than just Taumāriri on its own. So whether the wording could be that council allocate $100,000 from its beach and freshwater improvement fund to the development of a business case for the Taumāriri catchment as an initial start to the Bay of Islands catchment.
So you're proposing an amendment?
Yes. That there's a mention of the whole of Bay of Islands catchment. It was mentioned by the chair that this was towards the Bay of Islands, but it's just isolated to the Taumāriri one here.
Taumāriri is Bay of Islands. Oh,
yeah, but so it's Waitangi. So it was whole of Bay of Islands, but it was initially at Taumāriri was the implication. In the,
do we have a seconder for
cheers.
Marty's amendment?
Well, I think I'd like some discussion about how this evolved, because we haven't had any reports, or there's no mention here of, well, I can see, of the views of those catchment river committees. So I'd like to make sure that we're not actually overriding their plans and wishes and everything else.
It's fair comment. We haven't actually worked with any communities so far in the Hokianga business case, but Ruben, would you like to give these guys an update?
Sure, Chair. Councillor Robertson, I'll just briefly cover off your comment. So in the executive summary, we make it really clear that this is part of a broader program where it's anticipated there will be a broader catchment approach across the Bay of Islands. So that adds some context around the recommended resolution. So that's just for you to bear in mind if it comes time to putting forward a motion to amend the wording. The context around the paper does make it very clear that this is the first step of a broader package of work.
I'm sorry, just to, don't like to refute things, but it doesn't say it anywhere in the recommendations that we're voting on about the wider Bay of Islands.
Correct. It's just in the body of the paper.
Yeah, which then gets lost in the fog over time. But the recommendations are the ones that go forward to the public.
I'll leave that for yourself in the
thanks
to make it.
Yeah. I believe that we've put Taumarere there first, being that it's the biggest catchment and the biggest impact.
Yes, I fully agree with that.
And that it's a ready to go catchment as well.
Yep, fully agree with that.
There's political issues in some of the other catchments that we need to, and if we try and do everything at once, we might end up not doing anything at all.
This is stage one, Chair. I'm not refuting anything that's in the recommendations, except the executive summary points towards the wider Bay of Islands, and it's not mentioned in the recommendations. It's not as a staged development of the business of the Bay of Islands. Taumarere first off the blocks.
Okay, so you would like to put forward an amendment to recommendation 2?
I'm not sure if it should come in recommendation 2 or yes. Yeah.
Kia ora, Chair. If just to assist, if councillors are wishing to progress this, I would recommend that you make an amendment to resolution 2.
Yep.
You make an amendment to the end of that resolution that go after receiving waters, as a first phase of a broader Bay of Islands catchment approach, full stop.
We're all okay with that?
Yep.
Well, we need a seconder for Amy's going to second the amendment. Is that okay?
Amy was our initial seconder. So if both Rick and Amy, who are a mover and seconder, are happy with that like wording amendment, that keeps it simple. Thank you.
All right, everyone okay online? Yes.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
Right.
Kia ora, Chair, and I'll just respond to your query, Councillor Craw. So in developing this initial strategic case, we've made it quite clear that this is going to be quite targeted because time is of essence with this. So although we recognise that there's river catchment groups within that catchment, this initial case at least is going to be very targeted to enable us to articulate what we are trying to achieve, what are the outcomes we're wanting to get out of this, and what are the steps we need to take as an organisation to achieve that. At that point, we will be bringing it back to council to make a call around the broader investment for the business case.
So you staff have already highlighted the kind of works that will be required.
At a very high level. So I'm reluctant to put forward a specific methodology in a paper that we end up having to abide by, given we haven't engaged with anyone yet. Our suggested approach is to work with targeted stakeholders for the purpose of identifying developing the strategic case, and at that point we can come back to council and prior to that workshop to council on what the next steps are. This is just the first stepping stone in a broader package.
My concern is about the risks. I mean, you've got river committees that are established and obviously know their own issues, and the risk of them saying, well, you're going in over our heads, you're doing stuff that we don't agree with or that we've never been consulted over. What's that do for our relationship with them? Because they're obviously the most concerned citizens, well, among the most concerned citizens of those catchments. And you say it's high level, so I'm just, how do we resolve the fact that you're going in with a high level approach, which sounds like fundraising rather than rather than details. And yet we haven't talked to the river committees, the river catchment committee. So I'm a little bit uneasy about how this proceeds.
Jono.
Kia ora, Chair. Kia ora.
Yes. Are you talking to me?
All right, Jono, and then we'll come to you, Joe.
Thank
If
you.
It's about risk management. That's all I'm concerned about, John.
Yep, no,
Managing the risk.
I understand it well. If I could provide a little bit of clarity, essentially this paper here identifies the catchment and allocates the funding. Our existing river liaison committees that I think you may be referring to, those are all flood liaison committees, and they don't overlap with these catchments that we've got. So we don't actually have a catchment committee set up for any of these committees that we've got here. So you'll recall for the freshwater MPS implementation, we used to have a Waitangi catchment group, but council disestablished those 5 water quality related committees about 18 odd months ago. So I think what Ruben is suggesting here is confirm your catchments, confirm that we've got budget to be able to do some work in there, then go and do some engagement with, like for example, Hokianga has got I can't remember the name of the committee that the Hokianga has got there. That might be a touch point that we go to as we develop up the strategic case to then come back. So I think we risk manage it by not just launching into the full blown business case. Part of the initial one is to go out and touch base with some of those key leaders within those catchments to sort of say, this is what we're looking at doing, what do you think? And then bring that back to council.
Because key focus isn't necessarily going to be flood prevention or flood immediate.
No, this is around, as it says in the thing, it's about improving the quality of the coastal receiving waters.
Yeah.
And
Thank
water
you.
quality within the catchment.
Joe.
Sorry, Chair.
Well, thank you, Chair. Yes, no, I support the staff recommendations, and I'm very mindful that Taumariri's the evidence shows us it's got the greatest sediment loads, and if we look at what's happening down the bottom at Turntable Hill, we can see a huge amount of fine sediment migrating down into the Bay of Islands from that point. So yeah, this is where we've got to start with this initiative. And it's not taken away from the Waitangi and the Kirikiri rivers with their relatively high sediment loads too. Got to start somewhere, and I believe you start where you got the biggest problem. You can grab the lowest hanging fruit and make an impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just the final bit of context I wanted to provide. You'll recall when council put in place LTP funding for the Kaipara catchment, that we had some kōrero at that time. It was Councillor Justin Blakey at the time that said, well, actually, what about the rest of the region? So it was about water quality.
Yeah.
That's where the original $300,000 came from for the Hokianga. So not flooding, we're talking about water quality, catchment planning, similar-ish in vein to what we're doing in the Kaipara, or the Kaipara Moana remediation fund program.
Great.
Look, I just want to say, I mean, the reason I think I did move it was a while ago, the discussion, but you know, it's taken a while for us to get the whole process of this catchment, and the harbour remediation cases going. So I think we've done, Kaipara Moana has been fantastic. If you like, this is then the Hokianga Harbour is 2, and now we're sort of working on this one. It is Bay of Islands harbour, and eventually Māori. So we're done 3. We're starting on 3, and we've got about 13 to go. So taking a long time. So any initiative to develop this, I'm very supportive of. So let's keep going and get the others done as well. Thank you.
Glad to hear that, Rick. Any further? John?
Just final. Just before Rick spoke, I was going to speak for the West Coast because no one else was, but good to see that $300,000 still left for the Hokianga, and it is really like a small Kaipara harbour. That it's got a lot of sediment that comes off the land, and we actually had a really nice lunch there this month when we did the roading stuff, and gee, they the best fish and chips I've ever had, I think, straight out of the water. Really fantastic. So we've got to look after West Coast because the population base is so low. It's really nice to see it here.
Great. All right. Well, it sounds like we might all be ready to move forward on that. All of the recommendations together, all 6. I can't remember who moved either.
I moved.
It's still working, Councillor.
Right. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against.
Aye.
That's, thank you. Moving on to Waikato 2. 7.3.
I'm happy to move that.
Yep, I'll second that.
Okay, that's Jack and Rick. Any discussion?
I'd just like to thank staff for bringing it in at only an additional 155. That's a miracle in this construction age. So well done. And if that's all it takes to get a wonderful new boat on the water, then I'm all for it. Thank you very much.
Nice words, Jack. Any other?
Right, let's get it done.
Get on with the work. Okay. All in favour say aye. Aye. Against, that's carried. Well done. Jono?
Just to also acknowledge Jim, and it's a big project building a new boat. I know they've been intimately involved in it on a weekly basis. And I know that from the different reports I've received that they have really kept their eye on the budget. They've made cut corners where they need to, where appropriate that they can to save cost. So just to acknowledge Jim and his team for the work they've put in to make sure that this is brought in on budget and on time, accepting the paper that we've got here. But you know, like a cost escalations that you see in other parts of the construction industry, I think this is a job really well done.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Next, right, moving down to 8.1 Chair's report. I guess I will move that on Jeff's. Don't ask me any questions. No. Are you secreting that, Amy? Yeah, no. Ask Jono about any of the meetings.
Happy to answer anything, Chair.
Well,
But I can.
I mean, if there is anything, I'm sure, particularly around like these meetings with ministers, thankfully, you know, our CEO has been updating us on some of them. I hope that we can have a council only time at some point soon. I keep talking about it, you know, so we can all get on the same page around these high level discussions, which I know you all have interest in, but not all of us can always attend them. Yeah, busy.
Yeah, one comment, 17th of Feb was also, we met with the
the minister.
Chair was there, with the minister, Penny Simmons.
That's right.
So that's not in there. One concern I do have is meetings with Honourable Andrew Hart and Honourable Tama Portaka around Credit Free 2050. Given the Blue Greens drive towards gene editing, gene drive, I'd really love to hear what these visions for Predator Free 2050 and the Northland's vision, how that was articulated and what the response was from the ministers.
Aside from Jeff, is there anyone in this room who knows who can answer that question? Thank you, John.
In summary, our ambition is to increase the scale of existing projects. So those are the projects in Whangarei and Pewhare Whanui or Bay of Islands. And by doing that, we would really start to look at very large landscape scale pest eradication projects within the island. We're also supportive of those projects which are in Western Northland at the moment, led by Curia Hope, and we would, desire some sort of funding to go towards their feasibility study and implementation of that.
Thanks, Don. Can I please be kept informed of Pewharangi Whangaroa with all of that Pewharangi catchment that looks out onto the water there? Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the Chair's report, Jack?
Yeah, I think what I'd like is a chance to have a chat with Jeff about it, because I mean, I'd like some more details about it. We got reasonable details from Andrew Hogarth by letters about his support for Nigerian wild rice, PF 2050, and whatnot, Kalerpa, of course. But I'd really like some more details about how that discussion went with the Minister of Conservation about the deer program, the Northland's vision for PF 2050. I mean, there's quite a lot of stuff there that I think we really needed to be across a bit more of the detail. But also, I'd like to know what those 3 letters about weed management, was that road control that went to 3, it's not weed control again, was it?
Correct. Yes.
Saying hop to it.
Yes.
Yeah. Times are waiting.
Yes.
Times are wasting things. Were they reasonably stern?
Yes.
Okay, because we're going to have to start taking.
It's going on the future mural forum agenda if it's not.
Yeah, I think we need to sort of presage that we can actually start talking about actually, if they don't do it, we'll do it and charge them for it, add it to title so they can't do subdivisions and or move any title boundaries where they want to even to put in a crossing without paying their bill. So they really do have to start for that. It's been years and years and years. And we're getting, well, we're getting a little bit actually off the high, but not good enough. I mean, it's not good enough for the, is it? They're suffering, they're doing their weed control, and then it comes to the roadside, and that roadsides are a mess, and they're not getting any better.
Okay. Did you have a
Chair, if I could just provide a little bit more clarification in the Chair Crawford's absence. So the engagement with the ministers have been generally based on the briefing for incoming ministers documents that we developed collectively with everyone here. So these meetings were by and large follow-up meetings to when we circulated the NRC briefing for incoming ministers. We then sought to have meetings. We've then gone and had those meetings. The process that we've agreed with yourselves and through the chair is that on there I'll take notes and record of actions, both discussion points that we raised, feedback from the minister, and I send those emails out to yourselves. I've got the one for, and I just wrote myself a note just to make sure I don't forget, for the meeting that we had with Minister Jones last week, just to provide an update on that one as well. So I'll provide email update post engagement to show what was discussed, what the feedback from the minister was. We're also putting in place that we will be sending follow-up letters to ministers following those meetings. So we'll provide copies of those letters as we send them out to ministers to you as well. And I'll just double check to make sure that we've sent the last couple of letters that we've sent to ministers as follow-up. And as we get feedback from ministers, we'll make sure that those letters are circulated to everyone as well. If there's anything additional that you want to have in that picture, because it's really important that we remain all on the same page as to what the discussion is, and to make sure that myself and Chair, when we're having those discussions, that we are reflecting the views of council.
Well, I think that announcement by Minister Mitchell of the 1 million came out of the blue, and I read it in the Advocate. I didn't know anything about it. So it would have been nice if we'd had a heads up on that.
Well, it's hard to get heads ups on things ministers are going to do, but yeah, we can, we'll try.
We didn't even know he was here.
I'm happy to also take an action to make sure that, and aroha mai, that when we've got ministers up here doing announcements like that, that we let all councillors know that, that those are there. And if that didn't occur, my apologies.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. I mean, we have, as a council, approved the recruitment of a chief advisor who can assist in all this stuff, because actually Jono is here to run the ship. But because we've picked up the political side, you know, particularly this term, just paying off for us. They're actually, ministers are talking to us more than their own ministries a little bit at the moment, and we want to, you know, we want to move forward with that. So I might raise that thing again around how we have passed to have a chief advisor. You could communicate, especially around your, you know, your areas of interest. So. Let's follow that up too, Jono.
Just to be clear, Chair, would you like me to put that on a workshop agenda, because that particular action is on hold at the moment? I'm not actively progressing that.
Well, let's discuss it as council only. I don't think we need another workshop on it, but we'll fill it out in our own discussion.
Thank you.
And saying that, is it everything around the chair's report?
Thank you.
There's a lot of questions.
Sorry, yeah. He should, no.
First time.
No, we declined it.
Chair's report.
No. Okay, let's accept the report. All in favour say aye. Against. Thank you, Joe. CE's report 8.2. Do we have a mover and a seconder?
Happy to move it.
John and Amy, thank you. Any discussion? Yeah, who's first? John.
Just not sure that first graph, maritime activities, you got incidents twice. Was that a wrong label there?
Something dropped off there, Jim? Just John's dead right.
First page 66, wasn't it?
63.
Not quite the same, John, different colours.
Orange incidents and yellow incidents.
We'll come back to you. I see a frown on Jim's face as well, so we'll email around what those one of those labels is clearly inaccurate.
It's an easy way of thinking that there's not too many incidents.
Actually 44.
Okay, next, Rick.
Seeing Jim's here, any update on when we're going to have the blessing?
Just trying to sort dates at the moment.
Good, because I think everybody's looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And,
Okay, it's delivered now, so yeah, we're just.
Boat's delivered?
Yeah, the boat is delivered now, so we were just trying to hold off because we had.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's no rush.
I'm trying to fit it into the calendar, it's a bit of a job. So,
Thank you.
got a couple of dates in mind, so we'll get back to you.
Brilliant. Thanks very much.
Is it going to be one of those dawn ceremony kind of things?
Until 12. We have enough dawn getting us anyway now.
Yeah. Okay, who gets to smash the bottle on the champagne?
We won't be doing that, health and safety.
I know, I'm sure they don't do that anymore. Okay, who's next on the CE's report? Jack.
Page 69, the wastewater treatment plant consent state. It's the very first one. I mean, it's a festering sore in more ways than one. Colin's not here, is he?
Tess is here.
Sorry?
Tess, if you have any
Oh, hi, Tess. Can't see you behind. Can you, I'd see this beginning of a second sentence with the letter E. I'm not sure quite what that means. So did someone give up the ghost after trying to start to make a positive comment, or am I just being facetious? Can you give us a state of play?
It's rating from A to E. It's the lowest mark.
Yeah, it could be that. What can you tell us?
So we're still waiting for it to be installed. The E is just a rogue E that made it.
Okay.
So essentially, the bit of kit that they've needed to purchase, they've imported it. It wasn't in country, so they've imported it. It's now on site, and they're currently tendering for the contract to install it. Yeah, and the expectation is that the bit of kit that they're looking at installing is going to address the issue that we've got.
It's a UV polishing, final polish thing, isn't it?
So it's supercritical UV, which means it has a really shallow channel so that it gets much better kill off rather than the standard UVs, which are much deeper and much more efficient design.
Oh, I suppose not much more we can do.
Just as a question on that, it says that the abatement notice was reissued in September 2022. When did the problem actually start? Is it the same problem since prior to 2022?
Yeah, so with all the wastewater treatment plants, it's not like very few of them are consistently non-compliant. They'll come in and out because we monitor them or we get results in every month. So some months they're compliant, some months they're not. So Ahipara is obviously non-compliant more months than not. And then sometimes it's that they're not compliant with like the 95 percentile, which means if they've had one really high result, sometimes it can take 12 months for them to come back into a compliant state because we have to wait for that one result to fall off the end.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions, Amy?
Kia ora. Just wanting to acknowledge the work that's gone in the community engagement space, with summer being a real busy time for our team to be out and about at all the events. And a lot of them, I have to say, I haven't been at, but really want to acknowledge the staff effort that goes in. And I was at Waitangi Day and made a quick visit to the NRC tent, and they had Moana Futures there as well. And it was, good vibe, nice and busy, and really good visibility for our organisation. So just acknowledging the long days that go into getting around, and appreciation for that. Thank you.
Yes, total cool. Thanks, Amy. Any other, you're right online, everybody okay online?
Kapai.
Kapai, Joe. Well, if there's no further questions or comments, go ahead and move the motion. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. On to committee minutes. 9.1. We have the minutes to be received. I have a mover and seconder. Amy, thank you. John, second. Any discussion? See you, Jen.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Can I just wanted to confirm now that with these upcoming minutes, all councillors are getting invites and all councillors have speaking rights. Is that correct?
Is that a
It's a question about in future ones. Yeah.
so first
I
question
didn't ask
is,
that question before.
I'm confused by it because I thought we all got invited.
No, we haven't.
Okay. Go, Jono.
Kia ora, Chair. Yeah, last week there was direction came through via, so there's always been the understanding any councillor can attend any committee meeting. It's always been a standard practice and procedure. Last week there was kōrero via email and the chair agreed that we will make sure that all councillors are actually on the formal meeting invite list for all both working parties and committee meetings.
In subcommittees?
Yeah, I'm taking it as the governance structure in its totality.
And
Working parties, working parties, yeah, sorry, that's part of your governance structure as well. Working parties, standing orders don't apply. Yes, chair can provide speaking rights for anyone that attends. Similarly, for your formal committees, standing orders apply, and it's, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong here, it's at the chair's discretion as to whether they provide speaking rights for those that are in attendance. The kōrero has been, yes, councillors will have speaking rights if they attend, even if they're not a member of the committee. Again, though, that is going to be at the discretion of the chair, as that's what standing orders provide. It means that, but just to clarify that you still don't have voting rights on those formal committees or working parties.
So thank you, Jono. I understand all that. Up till now, we haven't been receiving invites, so.
That should be being addressed this week.
Thank you. I have confirmed from the chair that we have got speaking rights if I ask that question.
In the standing orders.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, just so there's no future confusion, whilst the chair has said that openly, it is the discretion of the actual chairs of those committees when they're chairing those formal committees, because it's their discretion under standing orders.
So the rule lies in the standing orders. The rule doesn't lie in whether or not the chair says you can do that.
Yeah.
Apologies, because I had assumed that everybody gets invited to everything and that the door's open. I prefer that kind of decision making, and yeah, and to hear from everyone, because eventually it comes to our table anyway. So it's better. Like I'm finding that our governance briefings are really helpful, and that's actually making the workshops less needed, and even the working party meetings are succinct too now. But I still would prefer, if you have an interest in the agenda items, to come along if you can. So thank you for following that one up, Rick. Working parties, of course, are just not that legal. So we hardly, we just sort of go through information and give some guidance, to Ruben and the team, and things that we can't, like, Marley came to the natural resources last meeting and we talked and we discussed, there were some things like the fish passage that we felt like it needed to come to the broader, council, and so it's just, that general feedback. But now your question is
just in appreciation of the fact that we will have visibility of every meeting going on now. I didn't even know about the extraordinary audit and risk investment meeting until after the event, so it'd be good that it will be on the calendars. Thank you.
Okay, can't wait. Jono has assured us he'll do that moving forward. Any other?
Yeah, Chair.
Oh.
You there? Hello?
Joe, can you hear us?
Yep, you can hear me, I take it?
We can hear you.
Thank you. I'd just like to refer to page 97 of the agenda. It's the RTC meeting minutes.
Yes.
Well, it was moved that the chair of RTC compiles a draft report to the Northland Councils advising on the following matters: the south side of the Brynderwyns, including the need for an Official Information Act request from NZTA, and matters pertaining to the NTA Northland Council CEO Aldridge review. Okay, on the first one, the council should have had received circulated a report that I've written as chair. Yep. And you may wish, probably today's not the day, but you may wish at some stage to quiz me on that. I think it's pretty self-explanatory when you read the Official Information Act letter from the CEO of NZTA of how many items actually were not investigated and hadn't been completed. It's quite unsatisfactory actually, and the fact that we had to go through the Official Information Act to have this discussion about the options is equally unsatisfactory. So I'll leave it at that, and thank the RTC for their assistance on this matter. With the item B, matters pertaining to the NTA and the Aldridge review, I was pleased to see so many councillors from our council and other councils at WDC when we met and had that presented to us, and you may get an idea of the work we've been just quietly proceeding with, low profile work, just trying to get to that point of getting an independent assessment of what is and isn't happening as far as the administration and of roading in Northland. So I think it was a pretty worthwhile report. We have not had the opportunity of having the separate consultants present to the RTC, which we would like to do, because we do know that the report that has been presented was edited significantly, but I'm not saying it shouldn't be, because maybe for brevity it needed that, but that's just something we'd like to follow up with. Okay, so that's me. Any questions you're welcome to ask. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Joe. I'd like to acknowledge yourself and John as our reps on, and of course Louisa with all the work. There's a lot of work going on that has gotten us to this point. The Northland Forward Together discussions were a reflection, I think, that there's more work to do. And I would be really eager for us as a council to have some time to ensure, again, that we're all really aware of what's going on in the space. Jack.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, I've a question, I think, for Joe, perhaps, or perhaps Louisa. Top of page 99, Kiwi Rail update. There's an action NZTA to confirm the land already purchased for the 4-lane highway between Whangarei and Marsden is protected and will not be for sale. How is that relevant to the Kiwi Rail update? And what does it mean? Joe?
Oh, yeah, you're just reading it, get the words right. Okay. So what does that mean? I think we've got to have a big look at this rail and road 4-laning out to Marsden Point. My view is that they should be, those projects should come together for the synergies. There's huge synergies there that's going to reduce the cost on both of them. And to date, that hasn't happened. I could go into the detail, but I think the actual northern section of the rail, where it starts off, could be, the alignment could be improved significantly and reduce the cost fantastically, actually, and get it right out of the CMA pretty well. So it's just my views, and that's one of the advantages with having a regional transport committee where we can have such discussions, especially informal discussions. Okay.
So it sounds like relitigating the whole Are we talking about changing the designation of the land for the rail corridor altogether? Or an option to do?
No, I'd say not a royal we. What in our the draft submission to the government policy statement on land transport, we actually make the point that the Brynderwyns, the four laning of between Whangarei and Marsden Point and the rail corridor should be reviewed by a technical advisory group and actually see what synergies we've got there. But dealing with them more separately, you're talking about a total cost, the way it's panning out, of north of $3 billion, and I just think we just got to have a look at them all together, because realistically, the government isn't going to fund all three of them. But if we can get the synergy, so we reduce it down to maybe 50% or near of the cost, we can promote achieving all three. That's my view, without any technical advice, just talking to engineers. And I'd like to see the government set up a tag group that actually of technical people to actually see how you can fold these projects together. Like the cut to waste going through Marta Hill should be not cut to waste, but cut to fill for the state highway alignments further south, and all that sort of work. And it hasn't been discussed, and you may actually end up varying your designated route for the rail. I can see it being parallel with the road alignment. Yeah.
I mean, my question, it's a fantastic idea, and they should be doing it both together. I've been promoting this for about 8 years, but
good.
The question is there now an option emerging that the rail route be moved?
The only person who's raised it is me, and the RTC have discussed it, but there's been no formal process. And in fact, because we don't have the technical competency to pursue that, I'd like to see a tag group go down there and actually do that work. It's beyond our sort of ambit, Jack. It needs someone else to look at it who's got the technical skills. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. There's a lot of high level things that we need to come together as a council on in terms of RTC, and there's a lot of detail on a lot of different things too. So I would again really appreciate it if we could prioritise a workshop amongst councillors, because we need to lean in and support John and Joe, because there's some mega decisions and lobbying that needs to happen. Yeah. So any further on the committee minutes?
Just in regarding that, there wants to be, everything needs to be on the table on that. I fully agree with you. We really need to have some good insight into all of those options.
Because you were at the meeting last week, right? You could tell that there are things that we need to discuss and learn about ourselves. Okay. Any other discussions on the committee minutes? Otherwise, we can move forward. Okay. On the receipt of those, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so it's carried. 9.2 working parties. We have a mover and a seconder.
I'll move.
Marty. Okay, John will second. Any discussion? Well, that's only, was that all that happened? The River Working Group, okay.
Yep.
All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Good on you, Kyle, River Working Group. Thank you, Marty. Business, okay. Can we have a mover and a seconder for excluding the public? Marty and Rick. All in favour say aye. Carried. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a quick
I sort of grab.
Yeah, just a quick grab a coffee and back.
Perfect.
Chris, just while breaking, this resolution 3 I raised it last.
Oh, I need to change the template.
It's wrong now.
It's independent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, did you two receive?
With our, do we need the COVID thing in there?
Scotty.
Yes.
I saw you stall on it on